that one, but let me see. Let me see how this one
See
real
how it
quick
feels?
test drive.
Could be anything.
Oh yeah.
There's no arm.
Yeah.
Because you
I
do this a lot. You do this.
yeah.
This is your move. No.
That's my move. Yeah, I don't know. I don't sit still very well. I'm not sure if you've noticed that. Now, Sonos?
So are we going to do like the rolling start thing where we're already halfway through a conversation when we hit go? Or
It has to happen organically.
is that just a you and Jason thing?
Well, no.
It has to happen organically.
Yeah, you can't do it on purpose. You got to get it in when you can.
That's how we start every show.
Meditation is hard. You
No.
got to, 20 seconds. You got to give yourself what you can. 20 minutes is real hard.
What you got going there, bud?
You gonna be okay over there?
Apparently you're
You
live.
good? All right.
I don't know, I was like trying to reconnect, so.
When you should let us know when we're live.
Yeah, you are live.
We are live?
I'm just.
Just
yeah,
happens.
You got one viewer.
All right. It's probably my mom. I told her I was
Hey,
doing
Mom.
this.
Thanks for tuning
Very
in.
excited.
So pumped to have you here. This is a big day for you, Lee.
It is.
Big day. I'm glad that your mom's tuning in. So,
Kit's watching.
Kit is watching. Hey, Kit.
Kind of like my mom. I'm like,
Sort of. She's like your work mom.
if I have a work mom, it's definitely Kit.
I'm not sure if he appreciates that title or not, but we'll see. So, welcome back to the GORUCK Show. My name is Blayne. We've got a special guest host today. This is our friend Lee McCarthy. Welcome, Lee.
Howdy, howdy.
Big day for Lee. We're kind of rotating guest hosts for a couple weeks because Jason is out of the office. But in all seriousness, Lee's been here at GORUCK HQ a long time. He's been a part of the GORUCK community much longer, really from the very, very beginning, yeah?
Yeah, Jason called me way back in the day. Hey, we got this thing. All right, what is it? Well, I can't give you too many
Can
too
you
many
buy a
details.
rucksack?
No, it was about the challenge at this point.
Okay.
And I was like, what is it? He's like, 12 hours. If you're in, we'll bring it to your city. If not, we're going to Dallas. And I was like, all right, yeah, cool. And then he goes, you definitely won't pass. All right.
Well, I'm assuming you made it.
Oh, dude, it was my goal in life to train for that event and just like end up standing up on the other side of it.
So this was OKC.
OKC class 050, July, man, like 2010, 2011?
Yeah, 2010. So you were in class 050, that's way back.
Way back.
Is anyone at HQ besides Jason that's been involved in a challenge class before you?
Kit, Emily, Andy, I believe all had them before me.
Kit and Emily were in 2.
Wow.
3. Kit and Emily were both in 3.
Wow, Kit and Emily were in 003.
And I think Andy was 6-ish or maybe a little bit higher.
We gotta get Emily on the show to talk about that, because that's a whole story. I don't even want to dive into it because I don't know all the details.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, that's a pretty interesting story about Emily ending up in class 003.
I think she may
right?
have been trying to prove a point. Like, honestly, she was probably showing up with
Point
a lot
taken.
of the same drive that I was showing up for.
Yeah, point taken.
So,
That's good. So anyway, Lee has been around a long, long time, has been part of sort of the fabric of GORUCK from the early days. You are a relative of Jason, so congratulations, and I'm sorry. I'm not sure where to go with that.
You get both sides of it. But
yeah.
I'm at a point now where I can deal with them very well because I've been doing it for so long. So.
Yeah, and so to his children, you are not technically their uncle, but you're basically their uncle.
Yeah, I mean, I hang out with those kids.
You perform the role really well.
It's a fun role.
Official or not, you do a nice
it's a really
job.
fun role. I'm the oldest of 11 grandkids on my mom's side, and so I was always around kids growing up. I've always just been good with kids, and so it helps that Natalie's a total badass. She's awesome, and then Jack and Ryan are just they're animals, and so
They're little boys.
Yeah, you
so
want to do some
that's easy,
stupid
right?
stuff? Like
Yeah.
I'm your guy. We got you.
Uncle Lee's here to help. You guys want to stay up and watch some movies? Sounds cool. Me too.
Yeah. What do you want to watch? I remember one time they were out of town, and I knew the babysitter, Bianca, was babysitting them. And so I went over there to see if the kids were still up with Allison. And we walk in, and Bianca just looks at us like, you want to play with the kids, don't you? I'm like, yeah, is Jack asleep? She goes, I just put him down. I go, is he asleep? And she's like,
That was not the question.
I don't think so. So I go upstairs, and I throw open the door, and Jack's like looking at me all wide-eyed. I go, hey, you want to go watch TV for like 2 hours? And he's like, yeah, I do. So I go pick him up out of the crib. He comes down. It was awesome.
So good. In some ways, that's kind of your role here at GORUCK HQ, sort of.
Yeah.
But I guess in an official capacity, I guess your job is account manager officially, but what you do more days than not is you interface with our Ruck clubs, you interface with our different customers that are buying bulk orders, setting up custom events.
Yeah.
So, but basically to be a tether to the community and to sort of give them what they want if it's outside the normal construct of going onto our website and clicking on things to buy. If they want something
Right.
different, then you're probably the guy they're going to end up talking
Yeah,
to,
so
right?
if you're trying to set up a custom event, you know, I've done enough events, I can kind of point you in the right direction based off of what you're telling me you or your organization or your company is looking for. Make sure you guys are getting the right event. We'll tailor it for exactly what your wants and needs are for that specific, you know, it could be more leadership, it could be more just physical beatdown, it could be more of a mental test of problem solving, thinking outside the box. And so I work with you guys to really dial that in. And then, yeah, like with bulk orders and stuff, it would be if you either want to buy a bunch of rucks for whatever reason, corporate gifts,
Because they're awesome.
or you're looking for sandbags for your gym, or even sometimes I've dealt with some government agencies that just kind of need the information in a certain way to buy just even a couple pieces of gear. So it's like, yeah, that's what I do. And then I answer any text messages, Facebook messages, anything that you guys are like, hey, what's going on with this? And I don't know, let me figure it out for you.
Yeah, and then so you also may recognize his face from almost all of the Workout Wednesday videos.
Almost all.
So you volunteered yourself to do the Workout Wednesday pretty much every week.
If I can be working and working out at the same time and fill both those buckets, I will.
I've noticed that you're usually a willing subject.
I will take that because it saves me time outside of there.
I'm with you. We were talking about this morning, man. Like we did one earlier today, and it was a reasonably good workout. And at the end, you know, my take on those things is always, I'm not gonna half-ass these workouts just so we can get it on film and put it out to the community.
Right.
For one, I really truly feel like, look, if we're gonna ask the community to do these and we're gonna test these out and talk about them, then we should do them and do it with all we got.
We can't ask you to give 90% if we're giving 70.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. So,
taking it for the cameras.
and for the record, you should always give 100. You can't give 110. That's not even mathematically possible.
No.
But anyway, but also because, like, you know, I have a job and a family and all these other things, and I try to make my fitness a priority. But if on a work day I can take an hour and do one of these Workout Wednesday videos and really get after it, like, look, if I can check that off as my workout for the day, that's great, because then I can go home after work and cook dinner and do other things. So I definitely don't waste the opportunity to
Not
break
only
sweat.
that, then you've done the workout that GORUCK Nation's doing, and you can relate to them on that. You know what it feels like. You know what muscle groups it activated. You know how maybe,
which is sometimes a surprise.
which sometimes it is a surprise. Then you know how sometimes it's going to affect you, and you know how that should change your training moving forward based off of what workout you did.
Yeah. So on that topic, very nice segue. What we actually wanted to talk about today, other than Lee, was we want to talk about
Secondary though.
Yeah, for sure.
First,
We want to talk about kind of, I guess in very general terms, we want to talk about fitness, but we want to talk about fitness relative to training and training relative to competition.
risk reward.
Yeah, all that stuff, because another thing that we have in common is we spend at least a little time almost every day talking about CrossFit, our training. We've talked about this a lot on the show, but we have a partner CrossFit gym here in town, CrossFit Black Hive, that are great people. And if you're an employee at GORUCK, as long as you earn it and you go through the on-ramp, you have an opportunity to have a free membership at the CrossFit gym. And so we have several members of our team here that pretty regularly go over and do a CrossFit workout together. I think we have 8 folks in the open this year.
8 in the open. Yeah, we just put, how many people are in that on-ramp class?
Like 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a handful of people at HQ that are drinking the CrossFit Kool-Aid right now. And honestly, it's really cool to see. Not just see them show up at the gym and work out with them, but it's cool to see like that fire get lit with them and them go, oh, I didn't think I could do that. And then they do, or they do better than they thought they were going to.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff is the stuff that I really enjoy. And that's why I like working out with my friends and doing the CrossFit stuff.
Yeah, because a lot of the folks here at HQ that are over there now are not like super hardcore athletes or really have a lot of experience with it. They're relatively new to it in many cases. And like you said, you know, on day one of their on-ramp, we're like, ooh, I don't know about this. But now we've got folks climbing ropes and, you know,
Chasing PRs.
Yeah, doing some pretty cool stuff. So even Lindsay, who's sitting over there, has you've
Lindsay the
made
tank.
some real progress. She loves that. You've made some real progress, though, in the last few weeks, right? Split jerk PR, rope climbing. You're doing a lot of cool new stuff, yeah?
Yeah, it's been awesome.
So cool to see a lot of that. But, you know, outside of even CrossFit, we do Team Ruck Up True here every other week, where we try to get as many people from the team together to go for a ruck or do a workout. We obviously do the Workout Wednesday stuff. So in general, we're pretty open to any kind of fitness or training. I think you and I especially are, and that's kind of what we want to talk about is, look, where do you draw the line between what you're doing for your health and your fitness versus what you're doing for some, maybe specified training and what you do when you're competing and kind of what you're willing to kind of trade off in that process. But also, what I'd love to talk about too is just some of the different things you've done for training and for fitness, because like you and I both, like I said, we're pretty open. I'll show up and do whatever.
Hey, you want to run this race whenever? Well, if I can, sure. But I've been lucky enough to. GORUCK was kind of, and this is one of the reasons why I love what we do so much. It was kind of thing that opened my eyes. When I finished that first challenge, it was like a whole new world. Like I just did this, I think it was like 13 and a half hours or something like that.
Got your money's worth.
Yeah, like I definitely got my money's worth, because Jason was like,
gave us a 13-hour one not too long ago. That was good.
Well, it was end of July. It was July 30th it was 2010, 2011. But I just remember it was this like massive heat wave, just killer. I think the lows were in the low 90s for like a week straight.
Yeah, like the Oklahoma, Arkansas, like that, it can get pretty nasty.
It gets nasty. It was funny. I thought I was going to have a leg up when I moved out here. So I was like, Oklahoma gets way hotter than where we are 200 yards from the ocean right now. And I came here, and my first CrossFit workout, I was chewing the air is how I remember it, because it was so humid. And
that's drinking your oxygen.
Yeah, I was just like, oh no. But yeah, so since my first challenge, I've done 3 marathons, handful of half marathons, bunch of Spartan type races, mud runs, obstacle courses, and I never take training too seriously is kind of one overarching thing that I would say. It's like, the big thing you're doing right now is life, so it's okay to have the birthday cake. It's okay to go have a couple beers with your friends. It's, everything in moderation, including moderation type situation.
Right.
So I've never really, even with the marathons and stuff, I've never let it, I've never done a 20-mile training run. That sounds worse than just the marathon sucking a little bit more.
I will totally agree.
Yeah.
I have done, the first marathon I ever did, I was nervous. I'd never run one. And so I did like a more proper training protocol. But it almost killed me, the training, because it was, I want to say it was like an early October marathon. So all the heavy training miles were in August and September in Florida. And it was just terrible.
Yeah.
And I showed up at the starting line, and I did fine on the marathon because it was in Minnesota. And so training in this heat and humidity, I did fine. But I just remember feeling really tired and beat down at the end. And I was like, I don't want to feel like I don't ever want to do this again. That was my response. I was like, great, marathon check. I'm never doing that again. The process.
Have you gone back?
Yeah, right. So I have. Okay. But as it turns out, I didn't really mind running the marathon that badly. What I hated was the 12-week training cycle of running in the Florida heat in July, August, and September that led up to it, and I lost a bunch of weight, and I felt weak and skinny, and I didn't really like it. And I had plantar fasciitis from running too many miles, and my IT bands hurt. Like, if you're a runner out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I hated it. And so I had a little bit of a mental revolution the next year. I had a friend ask me to do the Marine Corps Marathon, and then I was going to do the JFK 50 miler. Which running 50 miles is, pretty daunting.
It's a thing.
And it seems like you should run a lot of miles to prepare to race 50 miles. And I just felt so kind of beat down and hurt after doing all that running that I was like, look, I'm going to sign up for this thing, but I'm just going to run short distances at high intensity. I'm going to do CrossFit, and I'm going to try to stay healthy and keep my IT bands and my feet and my joints healthy. And I showed up and I ran an hour faster that year than I'd run the previous year. And I never ran more than 6 miles the whole year. And people thought I was insane, but it worked for me. Maybe not for everybody, but it worked really well for me.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I realized, because my first marathon was months after, I guess it was the spring, because the OKC Memorial Marathon is usually in April. So it was that following spring after my first tough. And I ran it with a friend of mine, and she was like, we need to be trained more. She'd done 4 or 5 marathons, total stud. And she's like, we need to be trained more. I was like, nah, this is easy. Like, it's just running. Like, no rock, no bricks, no logs, no one yelling at it. I was like, this is easy. So our goal was finish, but like it was 5 hours. Like, okay, cool, nice, casual. Finished like 5:02. I was so mad, like
Really?
so mad. 5:02. I was like, that is not what I wanted. But then it was funny what I learned from that one. Because it was the first time I'd ever really had to dig deep enough to get know what it feels like 20 miles into anything really.
When did it really start to hurt? 20?
About 20.
Yeah.
20, like when you hit 20 and then you still go, I have another 6.2.
10K, yeah.
Like, oh no. That's just, and then the other part about that first one was I just remember, because my plan was I'll run to each water station and then I'll walk while I drink the water or the Gatorade, and then I'll run to the next one. It's like I can always run a mile, and that's pretty much what it was. It was like a mile, 26, 25 water stations were on the course. And by the end of it, I felt like I had Gatorade up to here. So the nutrition was a huge thing for that one.
Yeah.
That I came out of. And then that second year, when I ran it, the big thing that changed my training and really got my time down, is I would incorporate 1 mile speed test runs, 100% all out. I was running it I think 6 minutes ish miles, and it was in I had an awesome, in Oklahoma everything is segmented by 90-degree four stop intersections, right? North, south, east, west, and it's mile by mile, so it was real easy to map out your runs and figure out exactly how, even if you were cutting into neighborhoods and stuff, you could figure it out. So I had a good mile, and that was a game changer, and I cut about a half hour off my time on that third one.
By doing speed work.
By doing speed work. And I was in CrossFit at that point too. And so speed and weight training.
Yeah. Strength is never a weakness.
And then the third one, this is typical, if Lee McCarthy ever ran a marathon, this is the one he ran, because I was training, I was on point, all my long runs were short. I was like, here comes the sub 4 that I've been reaching for. Sub 4, here we go. And the night before the marathon was a friend of mine's birthday, Kelly. And so she's like,
She's sitting next to your mom watching
baby, Oklahomies, and so she said, are you going to come out for my birthday? And I said, I would love to, but I'm running a marathon. I can't. She goes, 1 drink. Okay, I'll come out for a drink. So they dropped me off at my house at 4:30 in the morning. And I think the start time was 6 or 6:30. So I think I got half hour of sleep. Woke up, went to 7-Eleven, apple fritter.
Yes. The 7-Eleven apple fritter.
Big ass Gatorade.
You gotta do that one.
Big ass Gatorade and maybe some gel or something. And then I went to the starting point dying. Dude, dying. Worst.
Worse than the 5K in Texas?
Oh, a million times worse. Not even close to the 5-pack 5K in Texas.
We might have that coming up again in April.
That's
TRT reunion. We'll see you there. Lone Star beer. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
And so there was a storm delay, and so we took shelter in this parking garage, and I pulled my hood up over it, and I had a friend run with me, Pooja, and I said, Pooja, wake me up when we're starting. None of this hey, we're gonna go in 20 minutes. No, when we're walking to the starting point, you wake me up. And so finally she kicks me, and I wake up. I'm like, oh my God. The good news was I was still a little drunk, so I ran the first half in sub 2 hours. Felt pretty good. Saw my brother, gave him
First half of marathon doesn't really count, but fair enough.
The sub 2 hour half marathon is a pretty good thing.
Not bad.
And
I
then
hear a lot of stories about I was doing great until mile. Jason has sat here and said the same thing. I was crushing it until mile 20 or whatever.
And then
great.
I totally fell apart the second half of the marathon, but cross finish line 4 hours and 20 minutes, still PR'd.
That's not terrible.
No, and I collapsed. My dad goes and gets my Ruck from the gear check. My mom's there, and she looks at me. She's like, "How late were you out last night?" First words out of her mouth. Yeah. It's mom always knows, right? So I was like, late. She goes, "Yeah, I could tell." She goes, "We were tracking you on the app, and we just watched you go like this."
Crash and burn, man.
Thanks, Mom. So we go out for victory beers afterwards. I text Kelly, "Hey, Kelly, come have a beer with me." She's like, "Oh, I'm too exhausted from last night." I'm like, "Kelly,
you have no room to talk.
I just ran a marathon." She's like, good point. supposedly the story goes after I got out of the car when they dropped me off, like 2 of my buddies were like, no way is he showing up tomorrow. My friend Jess is like, if there's anyone dumb enough to do it, it's Lee. So that's my claim to fame. Don't run a marathon after drinking till 4 a.m., but it's a good time.
That's a good story. So that ties in a little bit to sort of the overall theme, which is that, look, sometimes when you're out and you're moving around and you're sweating, you're just trying to get some exercise. Right?
Yeah, true.
Which, okay, for me, I would say that's a lot of the time now, but we can come back to that. Sometimes when you're at the gym, under the ruck, sweating, you're training, which to me means you've got a goal in mind, and this workout serves a purpose of moving you closer to being successful in whatever that thing happens to be. Right, so there's some intention behind it. There's a purpose and a focus.
You're gonna maybe dig a little bit deeper than you would if you were just
or do stuff you don't want to do,
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Try to work on a weakness or fill a gap. And then sometimes when you're out there under the ruck or at the gym and you're sweating, you're competing, which means you intend to win, right? And so, I've had to undergo kind of a personal shift in this whole thing because for a long time, I treated everything like competition.
Right.
I just wanted to win, or even if I was by myself, I was competing against me, competing against my PR, whatever, and I was just trying to go all out all the time. And at some point I backed off some of that and I was like, hey, this is actually detrimental. I'm not getting any healthier, I'm not getting any fitter by competing every time I put on a pair of gym shorts or lace them up. Like, I'm hurting myself by doing this. And so then I was like, well, I should train. And then so I did that for a while, and that was better because then I had a kind of a purpose to my workout, and the purpose wasn't necessarily to do my best today, it was to do my best next month or whenever the competition was, right? Whether it was a marathon or a CrossFit competition or you name it. But then I got to the point where I was like, I don't really have time to sign up for a lot of competitions anymore. Even if I did, I'm probably not going to be super competitive. And so now I would say my overall mix, if I'm out doing something and sweating, if I had to guess, I would say I'm probably 70% exercising, which means I'm just trying to stay healthy, stay fit.
Get the movements, get the reps, cover the distance.
Right, because look, exercising for me means I'm getting healthy.
Right.
I'm staying healthy. I'm staying fit, so I'm not losing fitness necessarily, but I'm not necessarily improving my overall fitness. I'm just staying in shape. Right?
Yeah,
That's what I'd say.
You're not losing fitness.
Right.
Like exercise would be kind of
maintaining.
Maintaining, yes.
Right. So I'm staying healthy. I'm maintaining my level of fitness, and for me, a big one is I'm maintaining sort of my mental and emotional well-being, because if I don't work out, if I don't exercise regularly, I start to notice in sort of my attitude and how I feel. So
how quickly does that
big.
stack up against you personally with your attitude if you miss a couple days of working out in a row, or maybe you ate like crap, whether out of necessity or just because you want to?
3 days.
3
days.
If
Yeah,
I
know for sure. I can miss 2 days in a row, and I don't beat myself up too badly.
Right.
I try not to miss 2 days. I try to get some exercise at least every other day. I can miss 2 days. If I've had a good week and I don't work out on Saturday or Sunday and I get back at it Monday, it's okay. If over the weekend I'm traveling or something and I don't eat well for 2 days, it's okay. It's not ideal, but I can do it for 2 days. If I have 3 days where I don't do any exercise or I eat like shit, there's some self-loathing that sets in where I'm like, you're worthless. What's happened to you? You're like, it's funny because you can look in the mirror and you're like, God, you're just a fatty. What's wrong? And I'm like,
literally changed to nobody else but yourself.
yeah, I'm sure no one could notice, right?
No one.
But 3 days in a row, 3 consecutive days of not working out and or eating really badly, and I start to notice. And this is where the exercise piece for me, at this point in my life, is really, that's why 70% of what I do, I think, I'm guessing, is exercise, because it helps me with my health, it helps me at least maintain my fitness, and it helps me maintain some level of sanity.
Right.
That is really, really important for me. And then maybe 20% training, where I show up and I intend to work on something I'm not good at, or try to improve on something, and maybe 10% competing, where at this workout at this time I'm willing to trade off my well-being in exchange for winning.
Yeah.
Again, that's probably where I'm at. I don't know, what's that been like for you?
I'd say it's a.
And first of all, are those 3 buckets make sense? Is that kind of...
Yeah, I would say there's definitely. I always look at exercise and training or all of it as you kind of have gears, and it's like, what gear are you willing to go to for whatever it is you're working on? So
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
a good analogy.
Like first gear would be like get up and move. First gear I would consider a lot of the like social stuff, or even if you're gonna say like, oh well, I help my buddy move. That would be like first gear, right?
Mowing the grass and taking the stairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's like, okay, like.
I used
like,
to be very adamant, like, that's not exercise.
I mean, yeah, but
But I know what
it
you
is
mean.
though.
Yeah, yeah.
It's better than paying someone to mow the grass.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I think training with me, it becomes more of there's some sort of constraint involved, whether it be time or weight or reps, where you're aiming to hit those within a certain criteria. And I would say that training versus exercise, I would say most days when I show up at the CrossFit gym, I want to exercise. I think more times than not, because I try and hit the 7 a.m. morning class. So more times than not, I'll look at how the guys did ahead of me, kind of gauge that just so that I'm like, okay, this is about what people are hitting. Take that information, go, this is about what I should hit, this is what I hit last time, you know. And then I'll hit those movements, and then it becomes I check in later in the day and I see all my buddies check my score from 7 a.m. and they're like, okay, well, I just got to beat Lee at 12 minutes. And then that would be more training or competing for me is if I did that move, right? Where you go back and you're like, okay, well, I definitely want to beat this guy. Like, I get that that's competing, but when you are at the gym with everybody every day, I wouldn't necessarily say that you compete with them every day. Like, on a very casual level, sure,
Yeah.
but there's a difference in class WOD competing and open competing.
And there is, you can feel it the next day,
Yeah!
right? And this is the way I felt after the Ruck Club battle. It was kind of the same thing. Like, I
Yeah.
could go ruck 4 miles, I could go do a bunch of PT, and I might be a little sore the next day, but when I'm doing that competitively, you know, the soreness is there. And like, that's one of those things where I would say, you know, in general, I would say if you're competing, you understand there are trade-offs between, you know, you're not going for overall wellness, you're trying to win, right? And in some cases, you might be willing to sacrifice your body a little bit to win. But I would also say, your body is a little bit like a fortress or a castle, right? Like, if you attack it the same way all the time with the same level of intensity, eventually, like, the folks that are living in that castle or fortress, they're going to build it up to a point where they can repel, you know?
Yeah.
And if you keep doing it the same thing, then it's going to be adequate. And so there's not going to be any incentive for the fortress to make itself any better or any stronger, right?
Right.
So occasionally you got to hit that thing with from a different angle or with more intensity and breach the security a little bit,
Right.
break down a wall. And then when they recover and build it back up, they've got to say, hey, we gotta build this back up a little stronger, a little better, because otherwise we're exposed, right? And that's what your body does. It says, hey, whoa, I was
Yeah.
not ready for that, and so now I'm really sore and I'm paying the price, but when I recover, I gotta be a little bit better. And if you do that smartly, your fortress, right, your temple will get better over time. It will get stronger, it will get better. However, if the enemy comes back the next day and crushes you again, and then again the next day, then you're just a pile of rubble that
Yeah.
never has time to rebuild. You know what I'm saying?
One of my favorite things about training, no matter what it's for, is all the data points you can collect on it. You get so much information from literally every time you step in a gym, cover some miles, put a ruck on, any of that. There's so much information, and you can take all of that information, even down to how you feel, or, oh, I had a hot spot on my foot this time.
Yeah.
And if you take that information and you use it, then that in itself ends up tightening down your defenses, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's one of the great things about where we are. I think, so everyone talks all this bad stuff on social media. Oh, you know, people get lost in their phones for hours. I think one of the really good things about social media is how people are sharing their gym experiences. And now there is a line, but if people feel good going to the gym and they want to take pictures and they want to do it, or they want to take, you know, selfies with their buddies, or it's more of a social thing. Working out is way more of a social thing than it used to be. It used to be go to the gym, put your headphones on, set a 12 on the bench press, repeat, you know.
I wanted no social. And
No.
I know all the women at my gym in Tampa when I first started like going to like the Globo gym.
Right.
The last thing they wanted was social interaction.
How you doing?
It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, fucking leave me alone.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think that's one of the great parts about it, and I think that's where training and competing are in a gray area right now, because I can look at a workout and go, Blayne's going to do really well on it, or Cody's going to do well on it, or Ross is going to do well on it. But like the three of you aren't going to do well on the same workout. So it's like, I know certain ones, like I got to worry about you, or I got to worry about him, or I got to worry about him. And as long as you take that and you use it for good, hey, like, you know, you want to push each other. I mean, I saw the leaderboard after the workouts one day. I was number 2 at the end of the day. Ross beat me. I saw Ross. I was like,
Ross always beats me.
dude, Ross is a stud.
I think I've beat him on one workout in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
God dang it,
I
Ross.
saw him and I was like, you just couldn't give that to me, huh? Man, like you couldn't just take a knee until I got one. He's
Yeah.
like, no.
Every
dude.
gym has that guy.
But I totally respect that.
Yeah.
And next time I'm gonna work even harder.
Well, you wouldn't want it if, you know, it's like
If
my
he
dad
actually-
used to say when
exactly.
I was a kid, like, look, I'm not going to let you win because, you know, it wouldn't mean anything to you
If he
to win if I
actually
let
took
you
a
win.
knee,
you
if I
know?
saw him take a knee, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I just want you to have this one. Get up, man! Like, what are you doing? Come on, like.
Yeah.
No, I want you to lose to me while you're gasping on the ground, like dying, right? Like that's what I want. I want 100% if I'm gonna beat you. Don't give me anything less. Oh, I was taking it easy. That's the worst when you beat someone. And then they're like,
don't say you let someone win,
well,
especially if you didn't. That's
well, you know, I was taking it easier. You know, I just.
I was sore from yesterday.
I was sore from yesterday.
I say so. One of my least favorite things was I would show up at a workout sometimes, and someone would say, "This one's really in your wheelhouse," right?
Yeah.
And I would be like, "Oh, okay, fine." And then I'd show up, you know, a few days later, and someone would say, "Well, this one's really in your wheelhouse," and I'm like,
So they're all just in my wheelhouse.
"Right." And I remember
Right.
at some point saying, "Like, look, they all can't be in my wheelhouse, right?"
Can we talk about the ones that are in my wheelhouse?
Yeah,
just so I know.
there are a lot of workouts that I show up for that are not in my wheelhouse, and I don't freaking complain. You're like, look, if there's a heavy barbell with like high, you know, cycling or high turnover, like that's not going to be in my wheelhouse. I'm a naturally kind of skinnier dude. I'm not super strong, but I don't complain and be like, oh, it wasn't in my wheelhouse. And I just got so tired of guys saying like, well, it's in your wheelhouse. I'm like, look, every workout can't be in my wheelhouse.
You
know?
are
like,
pretty well rounded. Like so.
for a skinny dude, I'm
For a
reasonably
skinny dude, you're
well-rounded.
very well rounded. What would you say is your wheelhouse? Like if you could pick 3-ish things, what would you say they are?
So I would say if it's moderate weight over a long time domain, I'm pretty hard to beat then because I'm very competitive at my core. So if I know we're competing, then I'll go until I die or pass out.
Yeah.
So if the long time domain suits me there, just from a mental perspective. Moderate weight is good for me because if it's really heavy weight, I'm going to struggle because I'm 165 pounds. I'm just not a big enough, strong enough guy to compete with stronger dudes if the weight's really heavy. But if it's just heavy enough to be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
then I tend to do really well because that puts a lot of people kind of in their pain cave and like they get to their lactic threshold or whatever really quick.
Or they game it wrong, I think is another huge thing.
Yeah, or they pace wrong. Or a lot of guys go out, and gals too, I guess, go out way too fast at times. And I've gotten to where I understand how to pace a little better. So moderate weight, long time domain, whether that's a ruck or a barbell or
Right.
whatever the case may be, I tend to do better. The higher skill movements, if we're talking about CrossFit specifically, I tend to do better in a workout if it's got muscle ups or
Right, something
handstand
that's going to take a
push-ups.
lot of people out. You have them.
Yeah,
to
like-
at least be.
Because I can do all the movements. I'm not super strong, but I
Yeah.
can do the muscle ups and the handstand walks and all that
Right.
kind of stuff. So if it's got a more technical movement, I tend to do okay. But high weight, Olympic weightlifting, stuff like that, I'm gonna
Not
probably
your wheelhouse.
struggle. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least you're not tall.
I'm not, yeah.
Like-
I'm a normal sized dude. I'm not tall, at least, yeah.
Immediately discount like rowing and wall balls. It has nothing to do with like maybe going to open gym with a 30-pound wall ball and throwing to an 11-foot target.
I will give you wall balls.
But
Rowing, you have such a huge advantage being
Big
tall.
advantage.
I'm not even like. Don't even act like you can argue.
This is every day for us right now.
Yeah, it is.
So actually, wall balls, I would say, is probably top 3 best movements for me. Like if there's a workout in CrossFit called Karen, which is a benchmark workout. It's 150 wall ball shots per time. So you take a 20-pound med ball, you
10-foot target.
full depth of a squat, and you come and throw it, and you hit a 10-foot target. That's probably one of my better ones.
You know what your Karen time is?
I don't know. It's like 7 minutes or something, I want to
pretty
say. But that's the kind of workout, though, where the weight it's there. It's not like air squats, right, or pull-ups.
Yeah.
There is an external object. There's a load, a 20-pound load, and you have to have the explosive strength to throw it 10 feet in the air. So that's like there's some moderate weight involved in that workout,
Yeah.
and it's actually not a really long workout, but my anaerobic threshold is good, I guess, right? So I'm not gonna, be on the podium at a marathon anytime soon. I'm okay at running long distance, and I'm not gonna beat you, at a 100-yard sprint. A good runner. I'm not gonna beat a sprinter at a 100-yard sprint.
Yeah.
But if we're running like 10 by 400 repeats with 90 seconds of rest in between, like I'll do pretty good because my anaerobic threshold is good. I'm comfortable getting into the uncomfortable zone and staying there longer than most people. And most that's just because of my background. I grew up playing soccer, right? Which is like great. It's intermittent bursts of speed, but over a long period of time. And then I was in the Army for a long time where, especially in SF, I just got really comfortable
Just
doing
at that level.
torturous workouts and getting sort of comfortable in the uncomfortable zone. So if it's the kind of sort of dirty, nasty, grimy work, I'm real good there. Real technical, real heavy, not so good.
Yeah.
Which is why rucking suits me really well, which is another thing I kind of want to talk about is like, we obviously believe a lot in rucking around here. It's like our whole thing, like we're a rucking company, right? But we've also started to integrate more, like what I guess would call it ruck training into the kind of the mix. So, putting a ruck on and going for a ruck, that's the foundation. Those are the fundamentals, and that will absolutely make you more fit and make you healthier and make you stronger. But we've started to incorporate more, flutter kicks, overhead presses, other things you can do with a ruck.
I would say that rucking and training for a tough are almost two different sports.
For sure, yeah.
You have to have the rucking base. So
you're going to cover a lot of miles with the ruck.
You're going to cover miles regardless in weight.
The feet, the shoulders, it's got to be there.
The first one that I did that Jason called me up about, this is, back in the day, there weren't 1,000 articles online. There were no YouTube videos explaining like what they felt like. And the information, like there was a point once I agreed to do this that I was not, like I was putting my college textbooks in my ruck.
Yeah.
Which the joke is.
I've done a lot of that, by the way.
That it's like, that's the most use they ever got. But, whatever. And I was going out and I was running. I had a 5-mile loop right by my apartment in OKC. And I would actually, remember I said it was hot. So I figured out what nights and times the local businesses watered their lawn, and I would run through the sprinklers to keep cool.
I've done a lot of running through sprinklers in subdivisions in Florida,
And so I totally overthought it. At one point I got real nervous and I called Jason. I said, Jason, hey man, I'm not feeling great. Like, cardio's always been a thing I've always been kind of a slightly heavier. I've never had to worry too much about weight, but it's like I've always been a heavier guy. And so endurance and cardio has always been something I've had to fight for. And I've gotten, like 3 marathons don't just show up on your door. But, so I call him and he's like, just make sure your cardio's on point. You'll be fine. Like damn near hangs up on me. Thanks, Jace. And, so the day comes of the challenge and I'm ready to cover some miles. Like I'm ready to shuffle this whole night all the way through and they have us do like bear crawls and push-ups. And I hadn't even
3-hour welcome party?
It was like an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, but it was like I didn't even think of that.
I heard that in the
option.
early days it was a 3-hour welcome party, not a minute more, not a minute less.
So back in the day,
everybody wants the 3-hour welcome party to come back.
No, nobody wants that. Back in the day, the cadre used to compete with each other though. And there's a Facebook group that I'm not in because I'm not a cadre, but I know it exists and I know some of the stuff that's talked about.
Maybe heard of it, yeah.
And they used to say, oh, I ran a 14-hour. Okay, well, I'm going to do a 15-hour next week. And it's like, oh, well, I want to do a 6. Oh, I want the one of all time. So then it turned into, well, now we got to run a light after this. Who wants to run a 16-hour tough? Nobody. That's always a joke. Like, hey, if you're ever in a tough class, and the cadre does this thing where he's like, hey, I'll run you guys right into the light class. I don't care. He's definitely not going to do that, okay?
Has happened within 50 minutes of a light class.
Has happened, but it's unlikely.
Within 50, so
the cadre
they didn't
also
overlap.
So it indexed a mile away from the light, and like you had that time to get down there and sort your shit out for the light.
So would you say that the end of the tough was here or like here? compared to
I
the
would
start of
say
the
it
light?
was like here.
Okay, so what I'm
was-
saying is
I mean,
they'll
so
never do that.
You have,
Prove me
sometimes
wrong.
You have breaks that weirdly last that long.
Yeah.
It has happened.
Prove me
in
wrong.
events.
The first cadre that tells me that he took his tough class into the start of the light class before he patched him, like I'll buy him a case of beer.
That is a tough cadre, by the way. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's like, look,
Sounds like some
a
wild
tough is a significant emotional event. It's 12 hours. It's hard, right?
The tough's a gut check.
It's harder for the participants than the cadre for sure, but the cadre has to be there for the whole 12 hours of the tough, and
Yeah.
probably sometime before that to get set up
a
and
little
squared
before,
away,
a little after,
and
yeah.
then has to do the 6 hour, the 5 or 6 hour light after that as well.
Yeah.
After having been up all night.
And
for
they
the tough.
sleep
It's not a joke.
normal-ish hours, at least during the week, just like the rest of
Right,
us.
they're not
So
on
it's
Zulu
it's
time,
not-
like they're deployed or
they're-
whatever,
They're
you know what I
not,
mean?
they're not staying awake at night the rest of the week so they can run challenges on the weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I remember Jeff Reeves, he was leading the July 4th Tough in OKC. I did that one with a bullet ruck, which was dumb. Skinny straps dug in my shoulders the whole time. Don't
Poor
ever do
choice,
that.
yeah.
Poor choice, but
I have the curved strap ruck for my everyday carry, and I
Yeah.
love it, but if there's more than 30 pounds in it, I need the thicker strap.
yeah, I remember at one point the sun was up. We were doing like wall sits with the rucks over our head, like 10 hours in the challenge, and he's still screaming at the top of his lungs. Like screaming at us, like that whole thing. And normally, once the sun comes up, the cadre get a little bit nicer. Hey guys, like we gotta finish. We gotta this is why you're here. Dig deep. You got this. No,
Couple
Jeff's
more
still
hours,
screaming at us. That was awesome.
Awesome. I like that. So we were talking about rucking versus ruck training. We started talking about the challenge, but I think going back to that, like when we talk about rucking, which we talk about a lot now, there are a couple things that we say pretty regularly. One is we don't encourage you to run with a rucksack.
Yeah,
Because
religiously we say
because
that.
running is really bad for your knees in a lot of cases. It's like 8 times body weight, per foot strike when you're running. Now, if you add a load to that, you're adding
gets higher.
to your body weight, and right. So
So
it's
do you
not
think
ideal.
The strike goes higher than 8, or do you think just the weight striking multiplies by 8?
Well, I'm not a scientist on this, but I would say you just add the weight of the ruck to your body weight, and then it's
Right,
that
and then it's
weight
multiplied
times
by 8.
roughly 8
So every
per
pound
strike.
you put on your back would essentially be 8.
Right,
pounds
which
per
if you're walking or rucking, it's closer to 3. And so, you're doing a lot less sort of wear and tear to your ankles, knees, and hips if you're walking versus running. And so if you're rucking versus running with a ruck on, you're doing a lot less, you're putting a lot less stress. Damage is the wrong word, but you're putting a lot less stress in your ankles, knees, and hips by walking, or just purely rucking versus ruck running, which is something we don't really recommend. We also don't recommend having more than 50 or, I'll get to that. We also don't recommend having more than 50 or 55 pounds in your ruck because for the purposes of fitness and training or exercise and training that we talked about, you don't really need it. There's several studies that say, look, if you have 20 pounds even in your ruck, like it signals to your body, the physiology responds in a way, your body knows there's a load on the spine.
Yeah.
There's a stimulus there, and the benefits you get from moving with that amount of weight is basically the same as moving with a higher level of weight, right? So we don't recommend going more than 50 or 55. Now,
But
we also 3 years ago had a series called Kill That 5K where we, asked people to race.
with a ruck on their back.
And I think the heavy division was 40 pounds dry, I want to say.
45.
45, right?
Yeah.
I remember I did the second one ever, which was in Tampa. The first one was here at the golf course right across the street. And then the second one was in Tampa, and I did it, and I ran every step of it.
Hell yeah.
Why? Because I wanted to win.
You want to win.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm trying to say is everything in moderation, including moderation. Or actually, I say that a little differently. I say everything in moderation, including excess. Because I think it's okay to have excess as long as you do it in moderation. And that can be like having too much tequila. It can be running too many miles with your rucksack. It can be doing a hero wad that was an excessive volume. Like we did the hero wad small, followed immediately by the hero wad DT the other day at the Hive, right?
That was rough.
Because both those guys are my teammates, and the purpose for doing that workout was not to get healthier or to get more fit even.
Kind of
It was to honor their memory
pay the man a
and
little
to
bit.
suffer and to honor their sacrifice. And so, fine. Like I was willing to understand I'm probably doing my body a bit of damage by doing this, right? And so, but I guess the bigger point is there's some individual responsibility involved, whether you're exercising, training, or competing. It's up to you to decide.
Oh my God.
Too much tequila equals kidney punch. Kidney punch is.
Bomber, thank
Well,
you.
that's his story.
You know what? This was an important point I wanted to make, Bomber, and you interrupted it with your nonsense about tequila on the whiteboard.
Anyways,
The point is, there is some individual responsibility on your part, or the part of your friends and teammates, as to what your priorities are and what risks you're willing to assume or what trade-offs you're willing to make every time you step into the gym and put the ruck on and decide that it's time to sweat, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to get some exercise, great. Go get some exercise, social fitness, we love that.
Booyah.
If you're trying to get some training in, be focused, be intentional, understand what this workout's gonna give you relative to the goal you have in mind. And if you're competing or you're honoring someone's sacrifice or whatever, and the goal of the workout is just to suffer,
yeah.
then fine. But you have to recognize and accept all of that. And I think this is where the issue with, I'm addressing it from the rucking perspective because that's our company and that's what we care about. But CrossFit gets a lot of bashing because people say it's hurting people and you're going too hard. And I think the idea is you have to separate the training modality and the fitness regimen of CrossFit versus the sport of CrossFit, where you're absolutely risking some things and making some trade-offs to your well-being to win, right?
Right, no, I totally agree. I think that it gets to a certain point where I think, I've said this for years, the number one thing that injures people, and I say it about CrossFit, but I think it's probably true about whether you're a runner, lifter, whatever, it ends up being your ego. It's you see your buddy.
100%.
See your buddy doing something you can't do, seeing your buddy go a little bit heavier, further,
the RX
faster.
weight.
Oh, he RX'd it, I got RX'd it. And so if you are smart enough to keep your ego in check and knowing how much you can push yourself and still progress and still coming up short of that injury line, I've been doing GORUCKs and CrossFits and races more or less injury-free for the last 5 years-ish.
I've had one real injury in the last more than 5 years, and it was at the skateboard park.
Yeah, so it's like...
And I hyperextended my knee and tore my meniscus in a co-ed rec soccer league.
Yeah.
Those are the two injuries I've had.
Were you maybe being a little too competitive in that second one?
It was actually, that one was actually kind of just a freak thing. But
Yeah.
I know, but I was a little competitive, yeah. I'd like to win.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you guys in on that secret.
Yeah.
As evidenced by our workout we did just out here.
Today was good. Today was like one of the more fun Workout Wednesday ones we've run.
Yeah, and we, the last 400, we ran with our rucks on.
No matter how much Nick was trying to yell at us.
No,
I was trying to only run when the camera wasn't on me.
I saw you do that, and he snuck up behind you, and I was
like walking.
I was like, oh Nick, you're not yelling at Blayne to stop running. I see what's going on.
I did. Before, when he took off, I shouted, camera coming too, don't run.
Yeah. All right. Well, no, I agree. I think there's a time and place as long as you're not going to injure yourself. Now, that line gets really blurry, especially when you're gasping for air. You're really in the heat of the moment.
Yep.
And honestly, that's when you rely on your training to go, how far can I push this? And that's what training's about. It's about pushing it safely.
That's the beauty, though, of pushing yourself every now and then. Because, by the way, if you're always staying in that really comfortable zone, you don't really know where your red line is. If you don't blow up the engine every now and then you don't know how many RPMs it takes.
Exactly.
And so that's another reason why I would be in favor. I hesitate to say this, but I am kind of in favor of ramming yourself into the brick wall every now and then, because if you don't know how many RPMs it takes to blow your engine, then there's a chance that when you really need it, you might be pushing at 4,000 RPMs when you've got 5,000 or 5,500, and you could still keep going. Like, you got to figure out how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and sometimes you got to jam it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part of this is we're kind of discussing this on a one-to-one workout. Like, are you going to kill yourself on this workout or this workout? What about when it comes to balancing your training and stuff and going hard on, like, burning the candle at both ends just overall?
That's a great...
That's a hard one, too.
Great point. So, whether you're talking about working in a rest day, CrossFitters...
Lindsay, rest day, You know what we're talking about.
So CrossFitters have invented a term, I'm pretty sure they've invented this term, called active recovery, which means you're still allowed to do some exercise on a day that's technically a rest day.
It's like you go to the gym.
Tell Jason that because he uses that term that it came from CrossFit.
Yeah.
So, and look, at first, personally, I really like it because I get fidgety and jittery, and I like to do some movement or exercise every day. And so, you know, like this morning I went surfing. Me and Surf Hog went surfing at first light, right?
Good for you.
Yep.
Look,
if you start your day paddling out at first light, it's very hard to have a bad day.
Oh, dude.
I've had a great day today, and I attribute it mostly to surfing.
I am a terrible surfer. I got to a point
Me too.
last season where I started enjoying the process of going out, realizing you're not going to catch every wave, realizing you're probably going to get beat up a little bit, just hanging out in the ocean. But those mornings where I would come out, yeah, it's like that's how you start the day. You get back in, you're awake. It's 8 o'clock maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you, we were, my family and I went down to Costa Rica for 5 weeks this summer, and we stayed right on the ocean in this little kind of bungalow, and there was a great surf break right out front, and there was only 1 or 2 days the entire 5 weeks where there really wasn't surf. Every other day there was, like, most days there was a legitimate good surf.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 feet minimum, 8, 9 feet most days. Really good surf. Hard surf to learn on.
Yeah.
As a bit of a rookie, but like, you know, you take your lumps, you have some serious tumbles, and you figure it out. But I was able to surf at least once, depending on the tides.
Yeah.
A lot of days I could surf twice. And right outside of our place, like maybe 60 or 70 feet, there was a set of pull-up bars and a set of like parallel bars, like dip bars.
it's like they knew you guys were coming.
I know, it was amazing, dude. Also, directly next door, there was a bar that had pretty good food.
Like a bar, like with alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Not like a.
Yeah, like $1.50 beers. It was
Perfect.
unreal. So it was the perfect setup.
Yeah.
The only challenge we had, if I can really be honest, was that we had all the kids with us and we had no plan. There was like no summer camp, no school, no babysitter. We had no plan for
You
that.
just had kids.
And so it was awesome to spend all that time with the family, but like it wasn't like Jenny and I were just hanging out by the pool sipping margaritas. It was like, no, I was making grilled cheese sandwiches and
it's
doing
like
all that stuff all day,
Going
every
back
day.
to how we started this, Uncle Lee, man, like the few times I've been with Jack one-on-one, one kid and me, he beat the crap out of me. Just like so.
Lee, any one of my kids one at a time is a pleasure.
I have a huge
3 at a time is
respect
hard.
for what you parents do all the time because as much as I do love kids, I love being able to go home and not have to deal with kids too and get to do whatever I want.
24/7 is different. Like Jenny and I had like we eventually had sort of we didn't really have a routine, but we had sort of an understanding. Like, it was like, hey, look, you're gonna go off and do yoga, and I expect you to be gone for like 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna do 90 minutes of yoga, then you can go next door, get a smoothie, hang out, log on to the internet, do whatever you need to do. Like, yeah, come back in 3 hours. I expect you to be gone 3 hours. And we had an understanding that every day I was gonna surf, and that was gonna be at least an hour.
Maybe one or the other.
Yeah, and you couldn't do too much because the surf was big enough that it just beat the hell out of you. And so like an hour, and you start getting pretty sloppy and whatever. But I guess the point I was gonna make with all of that was, with a surf break and a set of pull-up bars and dip bars. Like there was a little gym in the village that we were at, and we went 1 or 2 times and paid like whatever the daily rate was to do a workout. They had some kettlebells and dumbbells and stuff. But I think we only really kind of like worked out in a gym maybe twice. Well, Jenny went to yoga several times, but we only went to a gym and lifted weights, worked out maybe twice in 5 weeks. But just getting out in the water every day, we would occasionally do workouts on the beach, the two of us, where we'd do burpees and running and air squats, exactly. And a lot of days I would do air squats or lunges, push-ups, dips, and pull-ups on this pull-up bar. Like we got home, no issues.
You just come back like just jacked.
That wasn't like prison yoke, you know what I mean? But I was fine. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I hadn't lost like all my fitness, so it wasn't like my inability. We did some rucking as well, actually.
Right.
But it wasn't like my inability to be in the CrossFit class or to be at the gym and addressing the barbell every day, like destroyed my fitness. In some ways, I would actually say it might have actually helped me. I felt really healthy and like,
I would agree.
Re-energized.
So as much as you have to make the fitness and the training part of your life and your schedule, like you're going to the gym, you're hitting these numbers, when things change, you have to be able to adapt to that too.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you don't have your gym where you can go grab your barbell and do your lifts, how do you adapt? And sometimes it literally, for me at least, just has to be like, hey, I'm just not going to work out the next few days. Like, and that's fine. And I'll try and like get it somewhere else. Like, so like, you know, when we went snorkeling a bunch and when I was in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago, I didn't go to a gym at all, but like spent 4 hours in the water one day just kicking around. Guess who was asleep by like 8 p.m. that night? Like this guy. So.
And it wasn't because of the tequila.
No, there's some tequila in Puerto Rico. It was a good time. Puerto Rico was a good time.
We're going to Puerto Rico next weekend, Jenny and I. We're
know
going to the
you
same
are.
spot you guys are at. Man, I'm so pumped. I
You
can't wait
guys
to
are
go.
gonna have fun.
We've spent no nights away from the kids since Penny was born 18 months ago. We haven't had any time away like from the kids. This is our first time.
Growing up, my family, like my mom's favorite vacation is let me just go read a book on the beach, which I hate. I'm very fidgety. I have to do laps around the office and such. So if you tell me we're just sitting on the beach for 8 hours today, that's not what I want to do. But so we grew up going to Mexico.
There's air squats and push-ups.
Yeah, air squats and push-ups and trying to figure out how I can get in trouble. But Puerto Rico was awesome. It just for where we are in Florida and how easy it is to get there and just how easy it was once we were there. That trip is like almost now like it's right there.
It needs to be like 3 times a year. That's what Costa Rica became that for us because it's a 2.5-hour flight.
Yeah.
From Fort Lauderdale, and it was like, look, it's such an easy
It's
flight.
like you could
it's
pull
so
it on
great.
a 3-day weekend.
That would be a big one, but yeah.
So it would be a big one.
If you get to
were
the
there
coast.
because we did red eyes, so it was late night flights. Got in it. I think we got in at like 1 in the morning. Then when we flew out at like 2 in the morning. So we had we had full Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all there, and then we flew out super early Monday. We were back in Jacksonville by like 9 a.m. on Monday, which was actually really cool when it comes to travel and recovery because I just stayed at home that day and
Should've
kind of
came to the office late.
got all my oh no, now you know this. But you know, because like you leave town, I have a dog and stuff. I got to spend some time with the dog, and so trying to get back late night and then show up to work the next day. That setup was awesome. Now, if it was a 3-day weekend, you could maybe shave one day on either end, and it still is a super easy trip. Travel is super easy. It's great. Puerto Rico being, you know, U.S. territory. It's like no passports, no money exchange. Not as many people spoke English as my experiences in Mexico, or they just didn't want to speak English to me.
Dude,
I could see it going either way.
I don't blame them. How's your Spanish?
That's easy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's
Bomber,
a little rusty.
Bomber, what does the community have for us on this? Do they care about fitness
We have a bunch
or
of
exercise?
negative,
A lot of negative comments.
Yes.
About Lee.
That's what I'm hearing.
Bring 'em
I
on.
think there's one fitness.
That's how Howard Stern
There's
built
only-
his empire.
There's
okay?
only one fitness-related comment. That's good. Okay.
Stoked about this. I can go with them in order.
You can read that?
Yes.
That's
There's
amazing.
a guy named Kit.
Boo.
Never heard of him.
His is positive. I love you, Lee. I'm so proud.
I retract my boo.
There's another gentleman, Datama.
Tatama, formerly of NorCal, currently in
Kit
the
yes.
currently in the Northeast. Okay.
About to be NorCal again.
About to be NorCal again.
He's
NorCal
going back?
again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Big post about it. Yeah.
I didn't see it.
He said Kit is still prettier.
Oh.
Back.
And then a
Kid's got a bit of
cadre-
like a faux hawk thing going
He
on.
does.
Yeah.
It's good.
Cadre J-Dub agreed. Mike Inchia.
I think it's
Did
pronounced
he used to work
Inchy.
here or something?
Inchy?
Yeah.
Inchy? Okay.
He said that guy's the worst.
Good.
The worst. Okay.
And this guy had to.
All of these people follow me on social media.
This
Like,
guy had some bad stuff to say.
Who?
I'm just going. A Dave McCarthy. Dave McCarthy.
my brother.
Y'all need to stop stroking Lee's ego by putting him on camera. And I pinned that comment.
Good.
Welcome.
What episode is this of the GORUCK show?
23.
23. So it took us 23 episodes to get Lee. Well, you were in front of the camera on 22. When,
Yeah.
when Bomber
He's had
was
a
our
few-
special
I think
guest
I've had a
host.
few cameos.
moments.
I mean,
Yeah.
I did like nights and weekends on a radio station, so
You did some wacky FM DJ stuff for a while,
like,
right?
Hey, this
So
is
we're
Chuck Wild on
we're
Wild 104.9 HD. Like, yeah, like that was me, right? Like, and but it was cool. And so what's funny is I think I get a bad rap because I'm a very loud personality with my friends and stuff, but everyone just assumes I'm like the most outgoing person. You put me in a room with people I don't know, I can get over it, but it's a conscious effort to actually be outgoing and personable and like kind of take that spot.
I'm a little the same way. Like I'm very outgoing amongst people that I'm comfortable with, but you throw me in a room full of total strangers, I'm less.
Like,
I'm not gonna like
in my
just
head,
be-
I'm like, so like, how do you shake this guy's hand? Is it handshake or is it like bro hug or like, is it something weird that I don't even know yet? Like, I spent so much time in my own head just thinking about stupid stuff like that for the guy that everyone thinks that can just handle anything.
Just remember, as you get older, like a certain person to your right, those moments are
Wow.
gonna happen.
Here he is.
Wow. So
Happen
Bomber
way
just
more
got called
often, like,
old.
What's the new cool way to greet people?
Bomber is very hip.
Emily, if you're
Is he
watching,
up?
I need to talk to you when you get back.
We have an HR complaint. Great, thanks.
Acceptable.
Another problem for me. Okay,
Shannon Schneider,
Oklahoma.
Shannon, what up?
who is your fave Oklahoma?
Shannon Snyder. Moving on.
Excuse me.
My favorite Oklahoma, man, we have a good crew in OKC. One thing that I don't dislike very much about moving to Florida, but I think the GORUCK crew grew a lot after I left. I don't know if those two things are related, but like they're solid. When I go back, I always try and like at least meet them for a beer or ruck with them or whatever. I would say that I probably have the most miles with Dom.
With Dom.
Dom. What's Dom's last name now? Hogan? She got married.
Yes, Hogan. Dom.
Wasn't
The
invited to
Dom.
the wedding.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. So.
Me either.
So I have the most miles with Dom. Alexei Ivanov,
Yeah.
big, tall Russian dude, works out in Tulsa, and he was at my first event. He buddy carried me, like I was a casualty at the end of my first event, and he buddy carried me across the end. And so I've just always had just like, we're bros. Like I'm Uncle-y to his kids too. I don't get to hang out with, his kid. I don't get to hang out with him as much, but he's super. So those would probably be the two that stick out.
Patrick's a favorite of mine.
Patrick's right up there. Patrick, and then two of my best friends, Josh and Maddie, did the light with me after my HTL. Favorite's a bad question. I love you guys all. Like,
Someone did mention they had proof of the hungover pictures that you run the marathon.
who?
I can't
Prove it.
remember.
Oh, dude,
Prove it.
I
Send
ran
those
that marathon.
pictures to me.
Yeah.
Hanley asked, this is for both of y'all, how was 18.1?
It was actually fine in terms of like suckage.
Yeah. Manageable.
I did it once. I think I paced too conservatively because it was a 20-minute workout, and I was
You
like,
crushed
look,
it though.
I did okay.
Hey,
I
that's kind
expected
of in your
to do
wheelhouse
better.
though.
Exactly. Exactly. 18.1 was sort of in my wheelhouse. Moderate weight, long time domain. I expected to do really well because of the 5 workouts in the open, that one is probably going to be the one that was best suited for me. There might be one other one.
Yeah.
And so I wish I had done better and taken advantage of one that was kind of in my wheelhouse. I think I paced too conservatively, didn't push hard enough early enough, and I did it on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to do it again. And
Yeah.
I could have if I really cared that much. So it was okay. I'm a little disappointed in myself, but it was fine.
I did it twice. First time in front of everyone else at the gym, Friday Night Light style, with going against Cody. Who Cody won. Hats off to you, Cody.
Cody's a very fit individual, though. It's fair enough. He's a good surfer, too.
Very well-rounded, good surfer.
Yeah.
He was the reason I went to Puerto Rico for a wedding, so thank you for that. But so the first one, I came out of the gates just way too hard. My dad...
Big mistake in a 20-minute
Huge
workout. Yeah.
mistake. And what's stupid is that I know that. You know, my dad has run a dozen marathons, and so I used to grow up running 5Ks and 10Ks with him, and he would always say, start slower than you think you need to. Don't.
Yeah.
And
That's a big rule in a marathon.
Then
by
the other
way.
one is
Yeah.
run your race. Like, don't see that person in your peripheral
Yeah.
pulling ahead and start freaking out and get out of your
It's good
game.
advice.
Super good advice. And when I listen to it, I tend to do very well. So the first one, I did really good for the first 7 minutes. And then I died a little bit in the middle.
The first half marathon was really great.
Yeah. And then I died a little bit in the middle. And then by the end, I kind of like bounced back from that, and I was back in a zone, and I was moving again. And then I did it again, ran my race, and found bonus like 22 reps. Still below you a little bit, but I'm hoping that we get heavy.
I needed to separate myself more from you in that one because that one was definitely more my style of workout. I should have done better.
Yeah, honestly.
Well, let's be honest. The real thing is you had to beat me.
So when
Nick did really well. RX.
Nick did
so,
really well.
Let's call a spade a spade. Nick had done it scaled.
Yep.
And had done well relative to the scale division, and then was debating
The next day.
whether he should retest it scaled or whether he should do it RX. And I said, well, can you do all the movements? And he said, yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, well, then you should do it RX. And he did really
He did well.
reasonably well
Very well.
RX. So
So the scaled championship has kind of been a thing in our office for the past few years.
I don't
because-
love that, if I can be honest, but go ahead.
No, because it's fine. Here's why I love it, and I get that people might not, but here's why I think it's really cool, because it takes you out of that danger zone of doing a weight that you're not comfortable with. It takes you out of that, oh, I might hurt myself, but it still allows you to be very, very competitive. And so
I love the scale division, by the way. I don't mean to say that.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I think that was a great move. by
I get what you're
CrossFit,
saying.
yeah.
Like the first year they did scaled, I was like, I didn't have muscle ups. There were like snatches, like if you got too heavy too quick, like I was out.
It was
on
like
those.
165 immediately.
Yeah, so
I
there
remember,
were a couple of the technique things that I wasn't super ready for, and they're like, oh, we're gonna do scaled this year, and I was like, let's just see what it looks like. And the movements were easy, the weight was lighter, and I could really push myself on it. And so after I think I did the first one and was kind of still on the fence of if I was gonna do RX or scaled all the way through, and I ended up with like a top 8 score in the world or something. Like something ridiculous. And so then it just became
My wife Jenny would say that means you should be doing RX.
But so where's that line? Because someone has
No,
to win.
look, I know what you mean, because like Jenny and I just did a competition recently in Tampa at our old gym, and we competed in the co-ed scaled
Yeah.
division. And by the way, we should have, because first of all, I think we finished 4th.
Yeah.
So we were just off the podium. I think you and I finished 4th with Nick in a scale division.
I still claim some collusion
Right.
on the part of the
So
judges
anyway,
of
the
Great
last
Games.
2 times I've competed, it was in the scale division, and it was appropriate. Like the 3 of us finished 4th at the Grit Games
And
here
that was
locally.
fun.
We had the most fun though.
I
We
think
first
that-
place for most fun.
That's a huge thing. Is if you get to a point and you're not like the guy that's going to end up having to go super dark to win the championship, if you're us, yeah, scale it. Go out
and
and
I
have
think
a good weekend.
didn't Ross and Cody and who was it? Like Zach. Was that they were a scaled team, right?
Yeah.
Who was
Which
there?
all of them have
Very
all
fit
the
individuals.
best movements for RX. They all
Yeah.
have-
So look, if anyone should have been RX not scaled, it wasn't us. But anyway, those guys are all very, very fit.
Yeah, Cody.
See me try to do a muscle.
Yeah, so look, I'm not anti-scaled. I believe very, very firmly, to go back to my personal responsibility note earlier, scaling is not failing. It's certainly not a character assessment. Like I have my last 2 times competing have been in
Scale.
the scale division. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm 100% for it.
But yeah, so it became the other part of why we've gone scaled the past couple of years is because arguably I was probably the most set up to go RX, but I still wanted to compete and have fun with like my buddy, like R2 and Blockus was around Kit, Nick's done it with me, and so to separate us out from each other and it becomes you're not competing with each other anymore. So that was our whole thing, and
Yeah.
why. So it's like scale championship. Like there's some pride in that here at GORUCK HQ, and I love it. I hope that next year we have another 8 people on top of what we have. So it's like we're 16 deep rolling in the open, and it's such a fun time
It's
of
not
the
like
year.
it's not a workout.
Oh yeah, it's still a work. Well, and in some ways it might be a little bit more of a workout because you're like, well, I can get these reps, because it's lighter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right, Bomber, what's up? 18.2 announced tonight. Looking forward to it. I have no idea what it's going to
you
be.
got a vibe? What are you thinking?
Nah, deadlifts and box jumps.
You think we'll see the repeat here or no?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I think it could be 13.2 repeat.
I'm just really sad. that
Deadlift,
those
shoulder
so
overhead,
far
box
away.
jump.
I just want to do snatches.
What I think is funny when people try and call the open workouts, they don't go, this is what I think it is, and here's why. This is what I think it is because that's what I want to see. Right?
Yeah, so-
I'd love to see 15-3 again.
You know who
or-
called it was, Dan Bailey, maybe the most beloved person in CrossFit. I was chatting with him last week, and it was the day before.
Name drop.
Name drop, Dan Bailey.
Sprinkle in there.
One of the greatest dudes ever, though.
Super
right?
solid.
So, and I was like, hey, we were talking about business stuff, and I said, well, Dan, most importantly, what's the open workout going to be? Like, Dave, like he's like, I don't have any insight at all. I'm blind as you are. I think it's going to be a long workout. And he was right.
Right.
So I haven't looked at the leaderboard to see how well he did. I'm assuming he did well, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Bomber, what else from the community?
Well, I have a couple of statements, and I'm going to jump back into the community.
Every time I ask Bomber for questions,
One,
he has statements.
one is while y'all were participating in the GORUCK games, did an awesome job. Christmas.
Very hot
Abbott-
that day.
Yes, Christmas Abbott came up to me and asked to do some selfies with me. And when we have her on the show, that will be the time I'm shirtless to ask her the questions from the community. Just
Okay.
FYI. There's a
Who does the community want to see? I'm not even going to say it.
Nope. Stop. I know. I saw that. No.
There's a David Hall who I was almost kicked out of his home, and Bradshaw, your roommate, saved me by jumping off their balcony in the pool. Thank you, Bradshaw. Do not forget that. He wanted to know, are you certified to teach others to exercise?
I am.
Lee and I are both certified
Yeah.
to teach others to exercise,
My
and I've done a lot
L1
of
has
it. You've done a lot
another
too.
year on it before I got I think I'm just gonna take my L2 and just
You gotta-
keep it going. I coach a little
Yeah.
bit at the Hive. I'm actually, it's been a lot of fun getting back into coaching. It's what I did before I showed
Yeah.
up in Florida, and coaching just it's awesome to see people hit PRs and do stuff they couldn't see. And
Yeah, there's nothing better than coaching. And so like I'm, as we've discussed, I'm very competitive, and I have like the high achiever gene. But there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing people that I'm coaching
do better.
do well,
Yeah.
or do better than me even, or whatever. Like I love it. And every time I take like a personality test, and I've taken every one you can take in like the special operations community, like I could be any personality I want to be now at this point. I'm convinced because I've taken every personality test. But every time I take one of those things, or the Strengths Finder, you know, those they all say that I should be a coach or a teacher. I just love it. So Jenny and I went on our own dime. We flew to Northern Virginia, and we stayed actually with my buddy Gus Malarche, who may be a cadre someday, one guy from my team. We stayed with him and his wife, and we went to the CrossFit Level 1 cert in Northern Virginia. They did an amazing job, by the way. Like at the time, I was like on the fence. I'd been CrossFitting for like 3 years, and I was like, you know, I don't know. And I went to the L1, and I met the seminar staff and stuff, and I was like,
Very professional.
this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so, and I learned a lot.
Yep.
Actually, I went home, I actually like learned how to deadlift properly, which
Yeah.
was a bit of a shocker to me because I've been doing it for a decade and wrong, right? And so I learned a lot. It really restored my faith in CrossFit and the seminar staff. And then we set up a nonprofit gym in Tampa for Team RWB, and I coached, Jenny and I both coached a ton of CrossFit classes as volunteers for years down there in Tampa. And it was really fun because people were coming in, they weren't paying customers, and so they were coming in off the street, many of whom had very little experience.
Yeah.
And we also coached a lot of adaptive athletes, guys with prosthetics and like pretty significant injuries. And maybe this is a bit of a long story, so I apologize, but maybe the best moment I've ever had in sort of coaching or in athletics in general was Jenny and I went up to Northern Virginia to be coaches for a bunch of Team RWB athletes at the Working Wounded Games, which is basically a CrossFit competition for adaptive athletes, right? And they're not all veterans. A lot of them are veterans, but a lot of them are just people, you know, they might have had birth defects or car accidents or you name it. And we coached a bunch of athletes that were coming from all over the country to compete in that thing. And to see the spirit and the motivation and the support from the community, the guys at the gym there, like they just, Chef and the crew in Northern Virginia, they did an amazing job of putting on an event that showcased these people's abilities. And disability was not a word that was ever spoken. Like it was just a showcase of their abilities,
Right.
in spite of some of their injuries or you know, adaptations, whatever you want to call it. And for Jenny and I to be there and be screaming at these people and coaching them and seeing them lifting Atlas stones and deadlifting and stuff, like absolutely the highlight of my entire professional career was to spend a couple days at the Working Wounded Games doing that. So yeah, training people on fitness is
very rewarding.
Yeah, I mean,
Extremely.
especially if you pick the right community to do it in.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, I remember, so I was a personal trainer for a little bit through college, and I trained these two kids that were, I think one was like 15, the other one was like 12 or 13. they're like nerdy little kids, not an ounce of muscle on them, like no body fat, but like just like string beans. And I started working with them, and the stuff that stuck out with me was like, oh man, I threw a ball like further than I've ever thrown it. Like, is the stuff they'd come in and tell me, and I'm just like, that's awesome. Like, that's so cool, right? It wasn't they were like, oh, I'm trying to deadlift 400 pounds. Or I think the other thing that really sticks out to me is just when you explain something to someone and then they do it, and like you see that look in their eyes when it clicks, and they're like, yeah, that cue that you gave me was the piece that I needed to make this all come together. Like, that feeling, awesome. What else? Statements or questions?
Dave Hall also said he wants to cuddle with you.
With me? David Hall, love you.
I see him at the beach all the time with his
Dude,
dogs.
every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shannon asked both of y'all your least favorite exercise with a ruck.
Specifically with a ruck.
With a ruck. Overhead squat. Because my mobility, my shoulder
Burpees.
mobility is not good. And so with the ruck, it's like your hands are pretty narrow.
Yeah.
With the barbell, you can go pretty wide.
go wide.
So I'm fine. With the ruck or the sandbag,
Yeah.
it's pretty narrow. The overhead squat. Overhead duck walk's just as bad.
That's just not
Anytime
a
I've got to
thing. No one
hold
can-
my head.
No one can successfully do an overhead duck walk perfectly. Like that, it's there to make you suffer. Like that's what an overhead duck walk is for.
Yeah. So the overhead squat
Burpees.
with
Every
the
time
ruck.
you go down, just like
Yeah, I don't like them, but I'm kind of good at burpees, I guess, in the
I'm not.
grand scheme of things. So. Heat count bodybuilders. Recently on Workout Wednesday.
same thing. Same.
What else, Bomber? Anything else?
Second to last, we're surrounded by all these Green Beret folks, but on the Army-Navy game, who do you root for?
Army.
Go Navy.
I went to West Point. Army.
My
Easy.
dad.
Next question.
went to
2 years in a row.
Last
big
one's
wins.
another statement.
What was it before that? Right before your 2 wins in a row. What was it?
I don't know.
Yeah, no one knows.
My
No
memory
one-
is
no
relatively
one's really
short.
sure?
I've had some head injuries.
This is
And
it.
2 years in a
There's
row,
two-
Army has won the
there's
Army
two
Navy
ways.
game.
It's like who's won the most, who's won the most recently, right?
Well, it's actually very close in terms of who won
Just
the most.
overpower them.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just keep
I'm sorry.
talking. Sorry,
It's a
Mama.
statement anyway. It's not a question.
Yeah,
I mean,
in the spirit of honesty, a lot of folks were disappointed that you chose myself and Lee and not Lindsay to be on here.
look, I have.
Lindsay's already gone.
Lindsay
She's
doesn't
like,
want to be
"I'm
on the
not
show.
even here."
Yeah, because you guys been talking for an hour and 16 minutes.
All right, so we're wrapping up. Thanks
She's
to
like, "I'm out."
GRTs for bringing us some Magic Hat IPA, which is
Genesee.
amazing. Jenny Beer, which is also known as free beer around here. We love you guys. Cigar City for making High Lie, which is flagship.
Fresh Threads.
Love
if,
that.
You like our t-shirts? These are the guys that.
Big Storm Brewing in St. Pete, Florida, commemorating 25 years of the Tampa Bay Lightning. The best franchise in sports, by the way.
Would you say
The
that
best franchise in sports.
that is your favorite
You
sports
have 1
team?
minute.
They probably are.
Yeah.
Jeff Vinnick, the folks down at the Tampa Bay Lightning are absolutely class act. But it is the best franchise in sports, and I don't think it's even close.
Wow.
And
We got our Badass Babes calendar in from them.
Booyah!
It benefited Green Beret Foundation.
yeah, so
Why isn't it
Badass Babes
signed?
calendar. These are GRTs that are doing
Badasses.
amazing stuff. They are badasses, very empowering photos, nothing scandalous or whatever. So that calendar is benefiting the Green Beret Foundation. Go find it online. All right, this has been fun. Lee, thanks, man.
Booyah.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.